Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. Now it's more.
Jason, did you just get an email from Sheriff? Okay.
Yep. Saw it. Thank you, David. We'll see if I remember when I'm reading his report. I'm doing the prayer. We'll go ahead and start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we come before you today asking you to watch over this meeting of our county commissioners and be with all the citizens of this county and our employees as they go about their duties this week. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, I'll go ahead and call the Monday, March 11th meeting of the county commissioners to order.
Before we get into the claim and stuff, I had reached out to Burton and David on last week, and I asked Burton to come in and sit with us, and he was willing to. He moved his schedule around and stuff to sit in here as legal advice for us. So
Okay.
if you guys are okay with it, I'd like to bring him over here and allow him to participate in our meeting.
I'm good with it.
Fine with me. Come on up, Burton. Okay, are there any additions or corrections on the minutes from last week? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion, we pay the claims in the amount of $619,483.75.
I'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded to pay the claims in the amount of $619,483.75. Is there any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Pass the ads and abates over. It's 2023-240 through 245, and then 247 through 251. The tax amount change on it is a negative $3,498.32.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the ads and abates for 2023, numbers 240 through 245, 247 through 251, for a total of negative $3,498.32.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to approve the ads and abates. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. All right.
David, does he need to look over this and sign it?
Probably.
Sheriff's report, total prisoners in 67 with 12 releases this past week. Total prisoners of 66, total farmed out of 1, total farmed in of 41, total 911 calls of 63, jail contacts of 4,297, total calls for service of 542, civil service papers of served of 23, bin inspections 4, new cases open 10, cases closed 9, vehicle crashes 4, SRO activities 104 calls for service, bailiff contacts 229 with 54 calls for service, 6 livestock out. Okay. Don, AMR. Good morning.
All right, our call volume report for the month of March so far. Blue Mound, 2 calls, 1 transport. Centerville, 1 call, 0 transports. Lacine, 14 calls, 8 transports. Linn Valley, 1 call, 0 transports. Mound City, 4 calls, 0 transports. Pleasanton, 13 calls, 7 transports. Prescott, 1 call, 1 transport, for a total of 36 calls and 17 transports. Any questions?
Amen.
Thank you, Don. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got the February report for the health department. 204 client contacts in February, for the month of February. The events that they had going on was the employee biometric screenings, the BAM classes, Jayhawk Linn High School Student Health Fair. Danielle attended the Kansas Public Health Governor's Conference. Upcoming events is the 2 Safe Sitter classes offered this week at the Linn County Health Department. Students can still sign up $25 for the classes, which includes the workbook and lunch. Amanda and Danielle to travel to the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Conference, March 24th through 28th. Amanda and Vicky to travel to the WIC conference coming up in April. Stress awareness event on 4/19, and the baby shower kids fair touch a truck on April 26th. Every door mailer going out this week to highlight the WIC program and upcoming spring events. WIC numbers continue to rise. The aid to local grant applications are due April 15th. These are grants that we apply for yearly and utilize to help with salary, benefits, and outreach programs. Okay. That's what we have from Amanda. Fire, Randy?
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Hagwald, Linn County Rural. I sent out this week's totals. We had a total of 11 calls. Brings our yearly total up to 128. The report I sent you, we switched over to the new system, our reporting notification system. So the old reports have not got transferred over from the old system. Once that gets in there, then we'll have all the in there. We've been working, training firefighters on the new system. Just working the bumps out and finishing the training up on it. Hopefully soon we can push out the community. I also have 2 more applications for high schoolers that would be interested in job shadowing. Both these individuals are up in the northwest corner of the county. I've talked to the individuals on that station. It'd be the Parker station. They're good with allowing them to do that. And so I'm asking permission. I have their completed paperwork and release forms for Garrett Fugit and Christian Ewert. Garrett is actually, he's part of the STARS program. So we've had a couple of kids come out of there doing job shadowing. Tristan lives right on the county line, Linn County line, and is interested in looking in fire service when he graduates high school. So I'd like permission to allow those 2 individuals to job shadow. I bring our total up to 4 individuals job shadowing now.
And on the job shadowing, Randy, they're not operating equipment, they're not fighting fire,
They are allowed to fight fire on this. It's usually like if they're on a hose line, they're behind another firefighter and stuff like that. They do help, like overhaul for pulling a wall off or something like that. But they're not doing interior attack and they're not operating, they can't drive the trucks. So, but they can ride in the trucks emergent. So.
Okay.
And that's in the release that they've and their parents sign. So, and they are given the protective equipment. The 2 that we have now on weekends and stuff, we've been working with them, putting them in air packs and just show them other things that they're not getting to see on live fire events, like the wearing the air packs and stuff. So
I'm good with that.
Okay. Do we need a motion to approve the?
I think it'd probably be appropriate.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we allow Garrett Fugit and Tristan Ewert to do job shadowing with the Linn County Fire Department.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to allow Garrett Fugit and Tristan Ewert to do job shadowing with the Linn County Fire Department. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Can you give me copies of their forms so I can get the names right? Thank you.
last week we had a fireman resign, Luke Coyer from Station 940. So I'd like to accept his resignation.
I'll make a motion, we accept Luke Coyer's resignation as fireman from Station 940, you said?
Yeah, it'd be Parker Station.
I'll second.
Motion been moved and seconded to accept Luke Coyer's resignation from Station 940. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
We had that from last week, so. I believe we need a motion on that as well.
Okay. Do we have a motion to terminate Alyssa Coyer as a probationary firefighter.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion been moved and seconded to terminate Alyssa Coyer as a probationary firefighter. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
With the rain, we've kind of slowed down our fires a little bit. We did have 2 firefighters attend a training, extrication training and propane emergency in Topeka 2 weeks ago. We have 4 so far going to Parsons on April 6th and 7th for training. It'll be a 2-day training as well. So that's all I have unless you guys have questions.
Have we gotten any payment from Pleasanton and Linn Valley on the radios that we sent out?
No, that's one of those, they'll just return the radios once they get their radios in.
Okay.
If you want, I can approach them about just selling them the radios, but it's one of those that it's just, they're all on loan once they're replaced. I know they're going through budget stuff now on that, so.
Okay. Anything else for Randy?
I don't know.
Thank you, Randy. Jessica, Economic Development?
Good morning, Commissioners. First of all, the Economic Development Committee approved our first child care grant application for the year for Jennifer Johnson out of Pleasanton. So that'll be $250 for her daycare, her in-home daycare at Pleasanton. And then I have a question about the airport. I had a Pleasanton council person ask that we set up a meeting with the airport committee, the mayor, the city administrator, and a couple of council people to kind of try to put together a plan to then present to the commission. He thought that that might be a more organized presentation discussion with you all. Are you okay with that, or would you rather just have whoever from Pleasanton come and speak directly to you? I wanted to get some guidance on that idea before I moved forward.
Who all did you say was involved?
So he suggested 2 council people from Pleasanton, the mayor, the city administrator, and then the airport committee to get together and discuss, try to put together maybe a couple of different plans, options for the taxes over there, and then bring them to you.
I'm fine with it.
I'm good with it. Yeah, move.
Okay, I will work on setting that up, and then when we have something to present, I'll bring it to you.
Thank you.
Okay? That's what I had for today. Thank you.
Okay. Sean? Public Works?
Sean West, Public Works Administrator. I reached out, as you requested, to the rock quarries in reference to pricing. Spoke to Scott Brook with Ham. He'd stated that we were already getting a high-volume discount on our pricing, and that our pricing was less than areas around us to the north and out west. He did tell me that we purchase the same way as other government entities, and changing the way we purchase or buying in bulk would not affect the prices. And he was willing to come speak with the commission if need be to explain anything that you had questions on. Whitaker, I spoke to Angie Wall. She stated that everyone pays a board price and they don't discount for volume. They do, however, do special pricing for projects, but those projects are not short-term or would not be purchasing bulk for the year or an estimated amount for the year, that's only a short-term project price. And she also said that they'd be willing to send someone to speak to you all directly if you wanted that.
I don't know. budget, maybe?
Okay. Said bring it up during budget? Bring it up again during budget? Okay.
Last week I spoke to Brad Austin, asked about meeting with you and setting up a meeting. I see that he's here today. I planned on meeting with you next week, or taking it up whenever you're ready to take that issue up. I do have an overview that since I sent the packets out that I typed up for you.
Can we just take care of it today or?
I don't know. What are we gonna take care of? I guess I don't know what.
I don't either.
What's this involving, I guess, Sean, is my question.
These are the numbers that I was asked to bring forward and look at the roadway costs around and the dust control and other factors around the feedlot in that area.
Do we have a plan on how to fix the issues that we have over there?
There should have been a plan put together by the road foreman for the one waterway issue in that area, and then cost estimates or comparisons
Right.
from those roadways to others. And then Mr. Rost has already volunteered to do dust control, but we need to resolve that so that I can move forward and contact those people if that's something that we're going to do. As I said, I have an overview from our meetings.
Okay.
If you'd like me to go ahead and read that, I will.
Go for it.
Yep.
Darren and I initially met with Mr. Austin, drove roadways with him, also looking at waterways and fields. Several things were discussed, which were already in place or being put in place to manage the water runoff, silting, and dust. First, fencing has been moved back to allow grass barriers between the operation and the right-of-way. Second, in the fields that were silting and runoff was most affecting the roadway, cattle been moved out and crops are going in to help with the water runoff, silting, and erosion management. Mr. Ross also cleaned his side or south end of that area to control the runoff and remove the silting. He's willing to pull back the tree line and continue to work with us on his side of the fence to improve the situation. Third, he's offered to pay for dust control through the county for the residents immediately affected in the area of his operation. He currently runs water trucks to help with dust control and high traffic times for the operation. Finally, he suggested that signs go up on and off of 7 Highway to tell drivers not from the area that they are not using the correct roadways in and out of the operation. This will keep dust down on the roadways that are not treated, and damage to the roadways will be limited to the area of operation. Other factors to consider are the roadway comparisons based off of feet of roadway for similar gravel roads for 3 years. You'll note that for 2 years, the maintenance costs were less than the ones we compared them to, but during the 3rd year, we had a large intersection project, which caused the average that you see over the 3 years. The drainage resolution document that was in your package covers the area most affected by silting and water crossing the roadway. This is also an area which takes runoff from Mr. Rost, or this is also the area which takes the runoff from where Mr. Ross is moving the fields to crops, so that the impact will be lessened by that. The next consideration is what responsibility is his and what responsibility is his by his operation impact to the infrastructure, and what is the county's for raising the road bed in that area. I've tried to be fair and impartial in my assessment of this issue and the factors that it's comprised of, but these numbers can be looked at in several ways. All traffic impacts the maintenance needs of a roadway, and so does the operation next to its right-of-way. While certainly Mr. Ross' operation impacts taxpayer infrastructure more than residential traffic, I cannot tell you how much for certain without an engineering study. That is why I've put this together without a final recommendation for myself as to how much a roadway agreement with Mr. Ross should be. But I will say that for my dealings with Mr. Ross, I believe a review of this information, a good conversation should be sufficient to come up with a resolution that all parties would consider fair. Last, I would like clarification, since this is the first roadway agreement dealing with feedlots. Do we reach out to all state licensed feedlots or deal with them as complaints come in so that we'll know how to handle it and manage in the future? As a supervisor of planning, zoning, and roads, I feel that I need to know what your intentions are moving forward so that I can meet your expectations. And that is my overview from our meetings and your request.
So he's already moved back fences,
Yeah.
and we have our silt plan in place.
I'm sorry?
We have our silt plan in place as far as where it was silting in, how we're gonna,
We have a plan of operation and an estimated cost to manage that section of the roadway.
okay? And then on his own, he offered to pay for dust control,
Yes.
okay? The signage, it'll just be no through trucks, something along those lines?
The signage, and this is something that came up this week with another operation north or northeast of there. We had a truck take, from my understanding, take GPS instead of directions and got stuck on a hill. And obviously, when one of these large vehicles gets stuck on a gravel roadway, then you've got to get a truck to pull it out. And that operation and foreman in that area on the North District, south of Lacine, also asked for signage to help direct these trucks away from those roadways and bring them out on the main roads where they need to be. The only thing about the suggestion that Mr. Ross made, if you look at most of your commercial truck traffic or signs or informational signs, we can put a sign on each one of these county roads off of 7 Highway that says no commercial truck traffic. Problem is, we need also to get with the state and put them on both sides of that intersection to alert the driver that there is no turn, because once the turn's been made, we don't want to cause an even larger traffic hazard by having a large truck back out onto 7 Highway trying to get off of that roadway. So since we don't own both of the roadways that would need signed, I'll have to work with the state if that's something, but it is a low-cost, effective way of controlling that traffic, and it is a very good recommendation.
The dust control, I think like with Mr. Austin saying he'd do that, I don't have a problem with that, but I don't want to set a precedent to requiring that from anybody through the county is what I'm saying is I don't want to start that toward if he agrees to it to be a good neighbor, I don't have an issue with it. I don't think.
Can you come speak into the mic, please, Brad?
There was a list that Sean provided, and on that list is several that wouldn't fall into where we travel.
Okay.
There's 3 on there that I would be concerned with that I've dealt with in the past. And what I would propose to you guys is let me go to those people and take care of it with them individually. That would kind of take care of the issue that we were talking about. And then if they elect to do it, that's fine. I would reimburse them if they did the dust control, but it would be up to that individual.
Okay.
That's why I'd like, I mean,
I think
don't
it's
want
better.
this set up to where
That's-
precedent to where the county is gonna start.
Well, and who says in a few years, if I'm not here, I don't need the next guy.
Right.
But I can deal with those 3 individuals, have in the past.
I'm fine with that. If you, I mean, with you doing it, I mean, myself.
I think that would
And I'd be more than happy to let you know what they decide whenever I talk to them.
What about raising the road bed?
What he was talking about in the area that was going to be cropped, we've already seeded it down. We seeded it all down last week. We just need some warm days. We did get the moisture on it after we did it. So I think we fixed all that, and that was in an agreement that I had to do with KDHE. So that's all been handled with a little help from Mother Nature. We'll get a good stand of grass there. And if not, we'll just have to reseed some in the fall.
So we won't have to raise the road bed?
Well, the road bed there it's low. But whether or not that was seeded down or not, there's still a chance that the water could come across that road.
It's come across that road for years, long before you was there. I've
Yeah.
driven through water through there many years.
But I would say that if it's something that you guys feel like that you would like to do, I've got the material really close. That's good material to build that out of, less than an 1/8 of a mile away. You know, and then his breakdown of what it was, a big chunk of the cost was the material to raise that. That would be something that I'd be willing to give to, for this project, if it's something that they feel like that you guys want to do. I mean, I've got some real good
You're
clay.
willing to donate the dirt, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I've got the dirt right there by the scales.
To raise the road bed?
What's that?
To raise the road bed?
To raise the road bed. I've got, we, as a matter of fact, we've got an open pit there where we use that clay to fix problems in our pens, and it's really good material. And that would be of a savings. And like the day when we looked, we've got some places where if there comes a point where they're starting to clean these ditches out and need to get rid of some material, we showed them some places where it would be real close to get rid of it, the stuff that comes out of the ditches, and that, hey, in the event that in the future you needed it back, it'd be easy to get it back.
Okay.
Usually the material that comes out of those ditches is not the best for building roads beds out of, but
No. I think you've been very generous in handling these situations, Brad. So
we want to try to do what we can. And if we do, one thing that I'd like to bring up is if we decide to go ahead and raise that stretch of road, I'd like to put a temporary crossing, which would still be on our farm, so that my feed trucks can get around, so I don't have to go 4.5 miles around for every load of feed while this project's going on. And it'd be something that'd be easy enough that we could make an access around this project. But other than that, that's about all I had, and whatever we can move. Thank you. If you're gonna get into like using the material he has and putting material on him, we're probably gonna want some type of agreement drawn up on that, I would think. Just because we'd be going on that property and using material.
Usually whenever the road crews actually dump dirt on the right, take it out of the ditch, they sign the release that the county road bosses have.
We do have a release, a waiver to work with property owners.
Yeah.
Is this something that needs done this year? Can it be budgeted for next year, or what are you thinking? I mean, Jim said it's been like that for years, so is it something that we're,
It has been like that, but like you say, if Brad's willing to put the dirt, the clay there, and we've got the opportunity, I'm not against fixing it now. I mean, if we're gonna do the work ourselves.
It would show those people that have been complaining over there that we're trying to take care
And
of.
it has been that way a long time. I'm not saying it hasn't, but it's if we can fix it. I mean, it's just,
I've got an excavator there. I'm more than happy to load it on your trucks.
Okay.
So that, that definitely speed this process.
Okay, and I mean, I think that the temporary crossings definitely, I mean, we don't want to be impacting his operations while we've got that road down.
Well, and I think, as Mr. Austin has already said, I think allowing him to contact the property owners and work with those owners and his neighbors would be the best path with that. And then as far as this roadway, as far as rerouting the traffic and getting a temporary, getting the manpower, putting it on the schedule, what I would ask is that you let me work with Mr. Austin, our shop foreman that's going to do it, and between the two, find the best time for him, find the best time for us, and come back to you and tell you when we are able to do it. Because quite honestly, I mean, there's several factors in that we need to have some discussions on, but if that's what you'd like to do, we can get the small talk out of the way, get a plan together and bring it back to you and let you know where we sit.
I'm good with that.
I'm good. You good with it, Brad? Yeah. I'm
Okay.
good with that if you guys can work it out between you.
And then finally, on the clarification on, I think that we deal with these as they come up if there's issues instead of going out and seeking out
Okay.
people. What do you think, Jim?
I agree to that. I think we can take care of our own.
Danny?
yeah, what's our policy state on like new business? I mean, 'cause you just stated feedlots in here alone. I mean, I don't think we should just pick on feedlots alone. If there's another business or something that is like a feedlot, what's our policy state on that?
That's going to be a question for Darren for planning and zoning with all the new rewrites and the regs. I am not the person to give a quality answer on that question.
Okay.
But I do know that, like I said, the North Shop had that other issue, and I can pile together, and if you'd like me, while we're doing this, to reach out to the state about the signage. That is a huge, low-cost, high-yield answer to some of those issues, and I think it's a good decision to try to implement that and bring it back to you, get a resolution on that for the signage, and bring it to you on both those situations.
Well, I believe it was even stated back when we did our, rewriting our regulations, Mr. Cowper, the attorney, told him when it comes to feedlots, it's going to be something that statewide, it's going to be hard to regulate, put more regulations on feedlots.
Okay.
We do have regulations there, but I don't think I think it's been tested statewide, and I don't think you're going to get too much.
Okay.
The signage thing, you guys kind of understand. If you put in that address in Google or whatever, it tries, and you're east of there, it tries to bring you through the Farlandville bottoms. And there's two roads there, you cannot make the corner. Bottoms on it. It's, we've got those trucks laid over there before. That's the main reason for that signage is they Google will lie to you and they will.
Well, it does, even on other roads out here. We've had semis come in completely crazy ways. It's,
And just doing what their
Exactly.
things tell them, but with a little bit of signage that hopefully they can read. And,
They'll know they're not supposed to go that way.
stop some of that.
So you're saying bringing them, when they're coming off of 7 Highway across north of Farlandville, they'll go through there?
The best thing is we just give them, whenever they call, we just tell them, go to Centerville. Because that brings you a different way than to our address.
Okay. I'm for the signage as well.
I can get the cost for both of these areas and reach out to the state and find out what we have to do there as well and get back to you.
Okay.
Sent the recommendation for plan zoning codes and sanitation that you asked for. I looked at a ditch project down by 300 in Quail in that area with the South Shop spokes property owner. We looked at several ditch issues around the area or the mile section, and Denny was getting with the property owner to try to come up with a plan and a timeline to mitigate some of those. Denny and Jesse went to gravel road training for gravel road maintenance. From discussions with both of them, I believe they're going to try to outline some of the things that they would like to change about the way we do things to be more productive and bring some of that training back to the operators as well. I think it was very productive. Jessica is working on scheduling road grader training with the foremans. The training will be both classroom and field for those grader operators.
You talk about the grader operators, Sean. There is one at Lacine that has his own construction company and said he'd be more than glad to come down. He didn't tell me this, but he's told an individual that in the county that he would help with training for road graders. He'd bring a guy or two down. I mean, they've had their construction company for years. That they would be willing to even come down and help us for educating new hires.
Okay.
Transfer station. We need to look at the equipment, but I was waiting on the capital improvement discussion to be a whole part of that. But the reason we're needing to look at this is we've got one truck down, a roll-off down at the shop. It's one of the older ones that I believe it's near or at 400,000 on the truck. And we're having regen issues with the truck and the computer system. They're going to be working on it today and tomorrow to see if they can get it out. But this is impacting the 2 days that they take commercial waste at the landfill. They are having to wait once one truck leaves with a box to put another box in. So it's slowing down how fast they get the tipping floor cleaned. And the 2 days that they do that during the week, they have to have that floor cleaned before they finish their operations that day. So depending on what I find out in the next couple of days about the truck that we've got down at the shop, I may have to come to you and we may have to start work on that equipment plan for the landfill, even if we don't have the capital improvement plan in place.
Okay.
Park Lagoon project, we reached out to 3 local companies. Only one replied. I got one of the 2 bids this morning. I sent one to you, but I've got another one this morning. My email, same company. The difference you'll notice is at the top line, that's the material used for the piping. What we're talking about is Lagoon Cell 1 and Lagoon Cell 2. There is a transfer box between those that is pumped up from the park area. It hits that transfer box and it's directed to one of those two lagoons, depending on which way we have the flow set. The piping in that lagoon is as old as the lagoon itself. This was PVC piping that was put in, and it needs to be replaced as we finish this project. That piping needs to be replaced so that we're not covering up new riprap, fresh cells with decades-old piping that it needs replaced. The cost is minimal, and within my signing authority, but the reason I brought it to you is you have already approved a cap for this project, and I was not going to add to that cap without informing you the reason for it.
Okay.
This was something that was unforeseen until we got it cleaned up.
Till we dug it out. And I did reach out to the contractor. They're trying to get back to us. A little bit of weather and a little bit expected this week, but I expect to hear when that dredging is going to begin again, but it should begin again fairly soon. That's the reason for the timeline on the request, so that we have, when those are dug out, the piping can go back in and the cells can be filled back up.
You have a problem with that, Danny? Jim? I don't either.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Need to read them, or?
Do we need to read the bids or?
They're under my cap, and we were only able to get one bid for those. Like I said, the difference between the two is the strength and the outer wall of the PVC material and how long that should last, but the minimal PVC material that was in there lasted this long. So I'm not for sure that spending any more money on a higher grade.
So they're from Timothy Wills, A to Z Plumbing out of Pleasanton. The total for one of them is $3,532.80, and the other is $3,898.20.
And you're going with the cheaper one, is that what you're saying? Or
That's correct. I spoke to Randy by the phone about the Old District Court. They've got carpet patched down. They're finishing up the pulling the lines or fiber in the building. I need to get with Chris and find out about the project as far as the termination of those wires and how long that may take. And I also need to get with the departments that are moving in, their department heads. I spoke to them already, but we do know that we need to walk through that building and we need to identify what furniture items are going to stay in that building and what needs to go. There's going to be quite a bit of furniture items between what's upstairs and what's in that building that I do not have space for. There are some small items, maybe a conference table, a podium that was used in the courtroom, things that I can surplus into some other operations, but there will be quite a bit of furniture material that I just don't have a space for.
Okay. So we'll need a surplus property resolution and get rid of it.
If that's what we do, because once they identify it with the timeline we've got left, if I need to build that list, if that's what you want me to build, I'll build it and bring it back to you. But we'll have to act on it in order to get it out fast enough to get them in.
I don't think we should let that hold us up. Put it over in the old jail building, because there's a bunch of stuff over there that needs to be surplused anyway. Why can't we stack it in there in the 2-car garage bay, that bay?
I've got a lot of the items from the senior center over there until we get them out. I can check to see how much needs moved out and how much room we have.
I don't want that to be a holdup.
I don't either.
If put it outside for all I care, but I just don't want that to be the holdup.
Well, I can move anything viable and keep it small, but based on the condition of it and the damage, or obviously when you pull office furniture apart, some parts and other stuff, if you don't mind, I'll keep what's good, and what is not usable or damaged, then I'll get rid of, and I'll try to put away what I can and just handle it that way. But it will be time sensitive once it's identified to get it out of the way.
Right.
So you'll just take it and haul it to the landfill with bad stuff?
The bad stuff, if it's not wanted, needed, and it's not serviceable or of any value, then I just recommend we get the stuff out of our way that's in our way.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Okay. In the discussion with Randy, I also brought up the park shelter roof. He did patch that roof while he was there. The concern he had was that he identified the issue, or why those shingles came up. Apparently they were nailed way too high over the tar line on those shingles, so they weren't holding down. And from what he told me, if I went down there today with what wind we had, we may find other places that have done the same thing. He said the problem is the way the material was applied to that side of the roof. So he expects it to be an issue consistently until it's repaired or replaced. The only other thing I had was a request for 10 minutes of executive session for non-elected personnel.
Can we get a for sure date on the judicial building? Do we need to, do the appraisers, do they have to let everybody know that they're moving, or is there like a state requirement that requires them to notify everybody of the address change or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I know they're printing their valuation notices right now and trying to get them out within the next few days. But once they get that out, they're gonna start getting a bunch of requests for hearings, and I'm not sure how the timing will work out on getting them moved over, but probably should talk to Lisa about that. And
The factor is also that, I mean, I can move items in and out and get a crew to do that, but we also have to find out from Chris about terminating all those cables. And this is no small project. That's going to take some time. I don't know how much time, but I can try to get you closer on a timeline, but I'm not sure I can give you a direct answer because this has several factors in it that I do not control. And
Can we try to pin that down a little more?
I'll try to get it closer.
Okay.
What about our asphalt plan? Have we got anywhere on that?
I'm sorry.
The asphalt plan, bringing people in, figuring out what it's
Chip
gonna
and
cost.
seal.
Oh, yeah, chip and
Chip
seal.
and seal.
We're out to bid on it. I believe you've got quite a few bids that open up on, what is our next meeting date?
March 18th.
They're due the 15th, so you should have several bids. I don't know if that's one of them, but you should have several bid openings on the next commission date. But I do know that one's out to bid.
Didn't we go out, or didn't, whenever the sale guy for the transfer state, or for the landfill came in, didn't he talk about, he was gonna get us answers on where we could put that transfer station? How far we go back and where the tires are or whatever?
Where we could build a
Tony.
new-
Yeah.
It
How far back we could move? I'll reach out to him and find out.
was on the tipping floor.
Yeah. So are we, I mean, so do we need to get a plan together? I mean, can we get a plan together on that? If we're gonna do it, what we're gonna do?
It's going to be a rather large project that we probably all need to sit down and discuss because it will affect what equipment we purchase in the future. And that's the reason that I've been kind of shying away from the equipment purchases in that department because depending on what we do, it may affect what's needed out there.
How long we've been working on this? Over a year? I'd just like to get answers on it.
Okay. I mean, he gave us our answers on raising the cells and things along those lines, and didn't we just spend more money with Terracon to finish
To finish the engineering with the state and the permitting.
on raising?
Yes. Correct.
Jessica, don't we have to have the what is that?
ARPA money.
Yeah, don't we have to have that designated for something before a certain date?
Here this year.
So we do need to get moving.
We can allocate.
And we have city lake compactor agreements and stuff. And what you were given, that Gary and I worked on, doesn't fit all of those locations. It's kind of a cookie cutter. We're going to have to look at each location and say this person or this station's either manned or unmanned. The agreements can be adjusted, but that's just an outline. So when we do have a time for a planning meeting for all of this, if we want to add that in and
Is the
have
only
that,
unmanned ones at the HOAs? Or
I'm sorry.
is the only unmanned ones at the HOAs?
That's correct.
I thought all the ones in the city were manned, were they not?
They are.
The HOA at Linn Valley, although it's a city, I believe the agreement's with the HOA, not with the city.
But not everybody can use that one anyway. I mean,
That's correct. So, but it would be something if you wanted us to pile all that material together and bring it to you and do
So
a
do you,
work session, we can.
do you want to put that on the agenda for next week or 2 weeks
Or next
for the landfill?
week's fine.
Do you want to comment about next week's agenda? We've moved the polling place back over here from Mount City and Stanton, so we're gonna need to get this set up next Monday afternoon for the election, so it'll be a day that I'm gonna want to get things wrapped up as quickly as we can.
Okay. So maybe the following week? So the 25th for landfill discussion?
That would be good with us.
Can you reach out to them and see if they have any information on, wasn't they to look at it for us?
The what?
Wasn't Terracom gonna look at it for us?
They were going to tell us whether our questions, if I remember correctly, were whether we had to have the monitoring wells still in, how soon our municipal waste deal could be closed out where we're not monitoring the wells. And then design as far as if we had to move the scale house and things that way.
How far back it could be, because I believe there's a monofill cell that would
Right.
prohibit
Right,
how far back it could be moved.
right.
I mean, we're still,
And I think
the
the,
answers on it, because we still have to do the building process itself, that's a whole nother plan that's gonna take months to do, so.
Right.
And this thing's been going on forever.
Okay.
well, I think the other question you had was the roadway coming into it, whether or not our former cells for
Right. He was saying
household
we could
waste.
possibly put different caps over the top of it and build it into our roadway.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he was double checking on that as well.
That was if we moved our scales though, right? And
Correct.
He thought maybe we could use the ones,
Yep.
On the Lacey Lake, or the power plant, like Linn County Lake, swimming's coming, good weather's coming. I know we have swimming that is allowed out there now. Are we gonna designate a spot for swimmers, or how's that gonna work?
Well, currently we're working on
Well, I know we're working on the dredging, but
we're working on the dredging, but we're also working on the dock project that we got from Evergy. There's going to be, in our configurations, there's going to be parts and installation and removal of the old dock. But as far as the swimming goes, that's something that we are going to have an engineer design that and bring it back to Evergy and Wildlife and Parks and get the design of what we'd like to do and the location of where we'd like to do approved. So while working on the lagoon and this,
So who's gonna police all the people that be swimming out there this year? Are we gonna give them tickets if they swim or what? I mean, because everybody's aware now that you can swim out there. And they jump in the lake, are they gonna get in trouble or how are we gonna do that?
well, all Evergy said in our agreement was that they would consider swimming in the lake as long as we brought an engineering plan or a beach area and that was approved by both them and Wildlife and Parks. They opened the doorway, but they left it up to us to get the engineering part of that accomplished. And if we'd like to start the engineering of that and get a company hired, I can put the RFP out for it.
The online reservations, anything on that?
The online reservations, we're looking at the options in those, and I'll get it back to you as soon as I can. And what the details are on it, but I don't have an answer today on it.
Anything else?
You got a lot, but
Would you like me to go ahead and start building the RFP for the engineering for the swim area?
yeah, I mean, I would, yeah. I'm not in favor of putting any more money into that lake until we get everything figured out and we get people there. I think it's important that the online reservations gets dealt with. I talked to Chris about that last week. He wasn't aware of anything, so he's looking into it. I think the swimming's huge. The docks is huge, but I'm not in favor of putting anything into the shelter house. It's made us $1,000 in 2 years. I don't feel like that we plan for it correctly. I don't feel like that we advertise for it correctly. And then the cabins on Airbnb, there's only one. I just feel like that we could do a lot better out there. So.
So do you want him to spend money on the swim or not?
I want to figure something out. And we have all these things that we talk about, but nothing's coming through. So
I can put an engineering RFP together and send it out to you for your approval to send out.
To see what it'll cost to do it, that's what you're wanting, Danny?
yeah, those fun answers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, do we want to go ahead and do the 10 minutes of executive session?
That's fine.
Okay. I move that we recess the Board of Commission meeting to executive session for 10 minutes to discuss individual employees' performance pursuant with non-elected personnel matter exemption KSA 75-4319B, Section 1, to protect the privacy of employees with Sean.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to go into non-elected personnel executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We gonna have any action?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. All right, we have no action from executive session. Next on the agenda, we have Darren Wilson for the Wakefield zoning change. Oh, let's go ahead and get public comment taken care of. Sorry. A citizen desiring to speak on an item not on the agenda may do so at this time. Discussion is limited to 5 minutes, and the commission will not take action at this time. Items introduced under public comment may become agenda items for a later time or date. Is there any public comment today? Okay, having none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. So Darren with the Wakefield zoning change.
Resolution already, I've changed the date to today.
Good morning, Commissioners. Darren Wilson, Planning and Zoning Director. I do have one other item. I received a dump fee assistance request from the city of Lacine for a James and Deborah Ryan. It meets all the criteria. The application number is CD 24005.
What was that again?
CD
Okay,
24005.
Better tearing the house down.
Yeah, they're tearing a house down. It's
on Broadway.
pretty dilapidated. The owner themselves is going to do the demolition, but the city council sent a letter requesting this.
Okay. Any issues with that?
No. Who reviewed that? I mean, doesn't usually legal review that?
Yeah, the city reviews it. And
No, on our-
if it's in the city reviews it and then I go look at it.
But like beyond you, because Gary used to look at it.
Gary used to, yes.
What'd you do this time?
I just presented it myself. I didn't know what to do with it.
Is there any special process that we're supposed to go through, David, to do that? Or do we need Burton to look at it? Do we need to?
Don't know.
Is it the zoning change or just?
No, it's dumping fees, waiving dumping fees at the landfill.
I mean, I can take a look at it.
We're not involved in tearing it down or anything. We're just involved in giving them free dumping fees on buildings.
They'll haul it off, provide their own dumpsters.
Market Street, not Broadway.
I mean, it looks in order to me. I don't see any reason that jumps out why you shouldn't or wouldn't approve it.
I'll make a motion, we approve CD 24-005, dumping fees at the landfill for construction debris for James and Debbie Ryan.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the waiver for dumping fees for CD 24-005. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Case number is Z 24-01, David Wakefield, 16524 Kansas Highway 52, Mound City, Kansas. Request approval of a rezoning from agricultural to countryside for the purpose of a lot split. Applicant has been approved for a lot split of 3.16 acres to keep and sell the remaining acreage, 55.63 to family. Under current zoning agricultural, the parcel is below minimum 10 acres in size and requires rezoning as countryside. The proposed zoning change conforms to the character of the neighborhood by providing the combined usage. Neighboring agricultural zone properties are of large size. Property is suitable for permitted use of the proposed countryside zoning and will not negatively affect nearby properties. The proposed rezoning of the land creates no change or effect of surrounding properties and not to create any additional infrastructure needed. The proposed change conforms to the comprehensive plan by allowing more land to be kept in larger agricultural parcels and not changed to a residential designation. The standard that should apply are listed in Article 20 with proper findings and required in Golden versus the City of Overland Park. Planning and Zoning recommends approval of the application with a vote of 6-0.
Any other questions on resolution 2024-08?
I don't know.
So I think what we've done in the past on things like this is your motion should include adopt the findings of the planning commission, approve zoning case C 2401, and adopt resolution 2024-08.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the findings of the planning and zoning and pass the resolution for 2024-08 for the Wakefield District. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Just as information to you guys, Planning and Zoning voted a new chair and vice chair. Paul Porter was elected as the new chairman and Elizabeth Staton was elected as the vice chair. We went through our bylaws and they want to make some changes. I'd like to get permission to show Burton those changes since they're our bylaws.
I have no problem with it.
I'm good with it.
Me too.
That's all I've got.
I did want to talk to you about, so a week or two, we talked about, when CUPs come in, we'll get phone calls and we know nothing about it until after it goes to the planning and zoning. Is there any way we can set this up where we hear about like rezoning changes, CUPs, everything like that before it goes to the planning and zoning, so that, just so we're aware of it, so we don't look like we don't know what we're doing whenever somebody calls us about it?
Yeah, I can send to David anytime I get an application so he can drop that in your share folders.
I think, what do you guys think? I mean,
I like to know what's going on.
I'm good with that. Because, there's times I get phone calls after they've talked about it. And I didn't know anything about it. So.
Danny, you'd asked a question earlier about businesses and conditional use permits. So each zoning district allows certain things and doesn't allow certain things. And the things that it doesn't allow is why they have to come get a conditional use permit for that to happen. And it could be, there's a list in the zoning regs of stuff that it is. As far as like road use agreements and stuff like that, there's only a couple of things that are in there that talk about road use agreements, and it just happened to be that feedlots was one of them, and rock quarries is another one, and those are the ones off the top of my head.
so since we got our regulations redone, have we reached out to the rock quarries and things like that to make sure that they're in compliance with our new regulations?
So,
CUP?
so I went through some of them, and the conditions that have been put on rock quarries before the zoning or before the regulations, not a whole lot of conditions have been added to them. Like the one that we're hearing now, I've got a list of conditions that I would like for planning and zoning to approve if they pass it. But it seems to me, looking back from the old ones, there wasn't a lot other than follow state and federal regulations and the year of how long they issued the permit for.
So is that something we need to revisit and figure out? I mean, with the rock quarries, things like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a case of going through the regulations and see what's required of them. From what I've seen, most of them are in compliance because they do have berms around them and what they do. And I just learned this, when they start digging that out is what they use to make their berms around the property. But as far as, I don't recall it stating that it has to be seeded or anything like that, but that's a condition that I've put in my staff report on this new one, just from doing research on it.
So how often do we revisit the CUPs for them?
So some of them are, it depends on how long planning and zoning sets it for. Some are 5 years, some are 10 years.
Is there a reason we did it like that? Or are you trying to get them back all on track, or what's your thoughts?
So the ones that have expired, I say expired, was coming up for renewal. They've renewed. I've reached out to them. We had some on 7 Highway that came up for renewal at the beginning of this year, and they came in and renewed them. There's a couple that's coming up for renewal in the next couple of years.
So do we review it and make sure that it's in compliance with our regulations when that happens?
Yeah, and they have to come in and renew the application with planning and zoning.
Other questions for Darren?
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Do you have anything?
See, Randy just emailed me. He's got a new employee he'd like to get approved too for.
Okay.
Sorry about the commissioners. I was looking through my notes. I had an application from Morgan Wakefield for Station 910, which is the Mound City station. I like approval to hire him pending pre-employment physical and drug test as a probationary firefighter. That'll bring our number to 7 on that station out of 22.
I'm good with it. I'll make a motion that we hire Morgan Wakefield as a probationary firefighter for the Mountain City District.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to hire Morgan Wakefield as a probationary firefighter for Mountain City, subject to his pre-employment information. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Hey, Randy, while you're here, the fire extinguishers, have we got anywhere on that? Have reached out to Centos to figure out the contract with them? And
I have no clue on the contract. That was I don't think David's looked. There's no contract that we seen that David found. We got the new code books in, reviewing them. We're just trying to get through grass fire season where it's slow enough we can go to Kansas City and take our testing. So the other problem I'm running into is getting a machine that will fill them. The one I had was out of New York. It was going to cost more for shipping to get the machine down here than it was to buy the machine. So I'm trying to find another local distributor that's not so far that we can get the machine to actually fill the fire extinguishers. So.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I don't.
Next on the agenda, we got Josh Frammel from Clearway.
Good morning, Commissioners. Hope everyone's doing well. Wanted to pick up our conversation from last week regarding potential pilot payments for I guess sort of tied to conditional use permit application process. And wanted to see if the Commissioners had any other thoughts as far as or ideas on how to structure that, or I had a couple thoughts myself, but wanted to come and just keep that conversation going and see what additional feedback you guys may have.
So I sent out the spreadsheets that I had been working on. They're out there on the SharePoint. On the first page of the solar tax projections, I plotted what it would look like if we had the $1,600 flat per megawatt, and then a $1,500 with a 2% escalator, and what the total would be over the 10 years per megawatt. It's in the purple box.
Which one was it?
It's the solar tax projections, not the years. It's under projects.
Okay.
Go back to home.
It's just a minute there.
Projects.
Okay. I seen it, but I couldn't remember where it was at now, but right there.
Energy
Review.
contingency.
Right there.
No, up one.
Okay.
And then
Tax
it's gonna be
projection.
that one.
Okay.
Find it.
Yeah.
So projects. Energy contingency plan. And then the second one. So I threw out to him last week the 1,600. He asked if we would do that flat instead. The purple box is where it breaks those out, what it would look like for that. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts in regards to that. But we'd be money ahead to do 1,500 with a 2% escalator instead of 1,600 flat. And I put this together so that we could come in and analyze what we're talking about as we're talking about it.
And I've got the same setup that you're describing, Jason. And I think that's kind of where we left the discussion last week. And, one, part of that conversation too is you just want to mention again that within that agreement, there can also be allocations, if it's between districts, or we also threw out the idea of a community fund of ways to split that. Then there's another idea, and I don't want to complicate your spreadsheet, but we could structure it such that there's a higher per megawatt payment in year one that would basically be sort of front loading it, and then nothing for 3 or 4 years after that, and then kick in again year 6. That concept just being, instead of having these annual payments that the county is collecting every year, would be a larger sum up front in exchange for a break for the next couple of years, and then picking up again later on down. So there's just another idea that, again, we can structure this a lot of different ways. We could focus on numbers first, but what I penciled in for that would be something on the lines of $7,000 a megawatt for year one. And assuming the 300 megawatt project, it'd be about 2.1 million. And then no payment 2, 3, 4, and 5. But then starting year 6, going back to that 1,600, which would go through the end of that 10 years. So not to complicate things, but something along those lines, if that would be, having that total up front, might give the county more flexibility to, use those funds right away, instead of, okay, well, it's so much this year and then so much that year. And
If I can jump in on that for just a second, I hadn't heard about one like that before. From the budgeting standpoint, unless we had some specific project we wanted to work on up front, I wouldn't be as much in favor of a big lump sum and then nothing for a few years, because it's going to be easier for us budgeting to have a similar amount year after year.
And a known amount.
Yeah, but if you did have some type of big project you wanted to work on, it might make sense to do something like that.
Okay. The 154,800,000, that was lower than I guess my expectation was based off the 381 million for the total project. Can you explain that any more to us?
Yeah, the 154 is just the equipment, not including our BOP contractor, labor, and additional service. I think it might actually just be the modules themselves is the 154. And that number, again, is sort of just a placeholder for, what we're pricing modules now. And that could go up, go down, but, ultimately gives us something to actually do some of this math with.
Right.
And of course, 300 megawatts being the number we're using, if the project were larger than that, then I guess everything would scale, and vice versa. If it was smaller, it would scale down.
If we didn't have the 50% prime ag land, would the project be bigger?
Yes, we would be able to cite more on in that permit area.
Okay. One of the things that stood out to me on the spreadsheet as I was creating it was the fact that the state of Kansas is the one that gave the tax exemption for years 1 through 10. And like, if we're looking at just this proposed project, the taxes that the state is giving up is $278,640 over that 10 years. Whereas the tax that the county of Linn County is giving up is $7,600,000. So the state has done a good job of, once again, giving away our revenue to try to bring in projects. You agree?
Or take your money and not give it back to you. I agree with you.
Okay. Other questions?
A lot of comments, but questions.
Okay, comments?
I mean, if we're going, we have regulations in place. This is based on the regulations we have right now, correct? You,
Me?
Yeah.
This is based off of what they've presented.
I know, but it's per the regulations we have, because if we do change our regulations with the red lines, that's not gonna happen, right?
Okay, that could be the case. Once again, like I said, I was just showing what it would do in different taxing districts. The way I look at the red lines and things that way, Danny, is those things are out of our control until it comes back from planning and zoning. We don't know what we're working with off of that.
You're right.
So
But if it were to change, this would go away.
very well could. We could also turn it down as a conditional use permit so that it didn't come in at all. Even on the first one.
I think it's, worth mentioning again that, this pilot is only associated with the project getting constructed.
Correct.
And so that's, I've been trying to, strike that balance where, compensation to the county, you guys feel is, fair. At the same time, I don't want to, agree, or I can't promise anything, right? I will promise if we build a project, we have a, approved permit application and an executed pilot agreement, then those payments will be made. But, if we're trying to say, well, what are we, what's going to happen? Like, I can't guarantee that that's, will come in. And so I also don't want to overpromise with the pilot payment, right? And then, go through a CUP process and we can't make economics work. And then nothing actually gets built.
Right.
So what you're saying is you can't promise anything until we can contribute to you what we're going to give you, but you can't contribute to us. I mean, you can't tell us for sure what you're going to give us until we sign a CUP.
Right. Because it's predicated on construction, right? I can't promise that we're going to build something. We would like to. We've done a lot of work in engineering and analysis, and think we can address a lot of the concerns that have come our way and your way. But these are all steps that have to be done in order to get to there. And then our commitment is, if the project's built, we would make payments during that 10 years per the agreement that we would sign, and then follow the conditions and the regulations such as they are during construction operations. But it gets back to, some of the conversations that Barry and I have said, we want to be able to have confidence in the project, be able to market it. And these are some of the things that utilities look for, right? Like if we were to go sign a contract without a conditional use permit, like folks would balk at that, right? Because, well, we don't know you can actually build it.
Okay.
So I'm certainly open to, other structure ideas. Again, I want to strike that balance. And, Jason, like you said, we talked about, 1,600 flat. I think that, adding the escalator back in is totally doable. I think we could go even a little higher, up to 1,700 with an escalator. And then again, there's the idea of front loading or being able to allocate how you guys might want, but again, we do have some parameters we're working in.
Okay.
And I have a county that I'm trying to maintain.
Mhm.
It looks amazing up there for you. It really does.
So you realize
here's
that
the-
we're
I
not
can't-
collecting any of that, right?
Okay, and then we're still living like we do today. Yeah, you're right.
Well, no, yes. So I'm just
So
saying.
we're not affected at all.
No,
So we figure out how to bring that's countywide, that's gonna help the county. So what's this gonna do for you? It's gonna lower your tax and levy right up there. So you have more businesses that are prone to come to your area. Down here where I am and where Jim is, no one wants to come down here. Taxes are way too high, correct? Is that correct? You don't know?
I don't know. Is that why they're not coming here, Danny?
I'm assuming that's probably why.
And what I'm saying here is those 10 years, the red box up there says that we're not going to be able to collect those taxes. All we're going to get is that pilot program payment that he's throwing out for those 10 years. If you pull up the other spreadsheet down there,
Well, you're still way ahead of us. You're gonna be fine.
okay. What are we even talking about then? Just end it,
And what?
right? Why are we going through this charade? Why are we having this fight if you're not?
Well, it's not a fight, it's a negotiation, isn't it?
Well, what are we negotiating? You and me negotiating
No, I'm
something?
just trying to figure out why you're not Linn County and just District 1. I mean, that's where I feel like you're at. I'm all of Linn County. I want Jim and our people to benefit off. I want everybody in Linn County to be able, this to be a stepping stone to make us.
So the pilot
Or-
payment would come to Linn County, not just District 1.
Yeah, but look where you would be at after.
That's not, you're gonna have to pull up the next spreadsheet. This is years 1 through 10. So can you go to your SharePoint? Okay, solar tax projections 11 through 35 years. That one. Okay. Really gonna have to zoom in because it's a big spreadsheet. Okay, so here's what it looks like, and I've got 3 of them up here for you on this. You know, the first one is the one proposed by Clearway. The second is a fictional one based off of EDF. And the third one is just a made-up solar field in the Centerville Township in 346's district. So that you can see those numbers and see how they would collaborate.
But if we're going to go off the planning and zoning's recommendation, what they're doing right now, with the regulations that are going to come back, this is going to go away.
Very well could.
So where does that leave us?
The county is going to continue to get $317,000 to pay into the entire county. Based off those projections. That's where that leaves us. They would get the pilot program to start with, and then they would have that. Do you have another recommendation that you would like to see? Something you'd like for me to draw up?
Linn County wide. That's what I'd like to see. Figure a way out to make it fair across the entire county. Because JAG Linn, they're getting the short end of the stick, and so does Pleasanton.
I didn't set up the taxing districts.
I know you didn't, but 100%, I know you did not.
I mean, does it make sense in that pilot, given how the county, is structured with just real property tax, right? Because that's pretty set. The pilot, I think, can be allocated however the commissioners agree.
Correct.
So maybe there's a way to balance that front end. Maybe it goes more to District 2 and 3. I mean, not to complicate things, but, you could earmark those funds because it's not taxes, right? This is a payment that the project would be making per this agreement. It can be set up, I tossed out 25 to each district with 25 to community fund. That could be spent across the county, whatever folks would decide on. It could be 75% your district, Annie, for that 10-year period to, balance how the taxes are allocated like any other real property come year 11. So there's like sort of 2 questions. There's the number and then there's allocation. And I'm really just focused on the number because allocation would be completely up to the county.
I think it's kind of a moot point till we decide what the planning and zoning is gonna do.
I do too.
We don't, what we're talking here, we're just kicking the can down the road right now, so I think we wait. And see what happens. We went this far.
Okay.
either way, I know you guys have sort of tied these issues together. And, if, again, there's projects you're focused on, if there's, certain targets that you guys have in mind, I still think that's helpful for us to have and helpful to disseminate. And, that's why I wanted to come back today, is to understand, how we can balance those two things. And again, one of the requests for several months ago was like, how can we lay it out for, benefits to the county? And I think this is a good one for that.
Okay. Any other questions for Josh? Okay. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks a lot.
Jason, could I interject real quick?
Yep.
I've got to go at about 11 o'clock, but I might be able to make it back, but before I do, could I just have a quick conversation with you guys about what you want from me and the level of expectation, that sort of thing? I can move some things around and generally be available to come on Mondays if you want me, or if you've got something else in mind. Do you guys have any idea what you want?
I've had one person that didn't actually reach out to me, but I do have a card that it's an attorney from Overland Park.
Okay.
Said he'd be willing to help us out and I don't know what you guys think. I didn't reach out to him. This card came to me, was given to me, and you guys can look at it, and it's, if you want to reach out to him.
Well, I guess, unless you tell me otherwise, I'll just plan on being here next Monday, and you can use that time to reach out to that guy and tell me whether you.
That'd be good to me, so.
Okay.
That's good with me if you guys are good with it. I mean, it's till we figure out something.
I think we need to have something that way.
And I guess I can.
So how would we normally go about getting
Well, I think that you guys can hire any attorney you want to serve as county counselor. I think, and I'm sorry, I probably have to look at the statute to be sure, but I mean, it'd just be a matter of the majority of the board making a motion to hire someone, or, I bring a contract to you, or he'd bring a contract to you, and we talk about it and you'd approve it or not.
So I mean, could we send it out for
An RFP? Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
I think that would be probably the best. And then
That's
go
fine
through
with me.
and review the qualifications and determine which ones we want to interview.
That's good with me.
And I think to develop that, it would be good if you guys talked about what you were expecting from a county counselor and how many hours a week and what you're willing to pay for, because they're going to want to know that before they.
And I guess in the meantime, for myself and for the county, do you guys want to make a motion to just have me in as an interim county counselor until you guys get that RFP back and make a decision?
Yeah. I do.
And I don't know Burton without looking, and you'd probably know more about that part at the statute, but don't those duties kind of fall on you anyway? If
I
we
think
don't
they
have
fall
one?
back at Blinks. Yes, that's right. But again, just so I know what
Yeah.
your level of expectation is for me.
Well, I'd like, yeah, that'd be fine.
That's fine. I'll just
See
keep
what we're
showing
gonna
up
do.
until.
Right. Okay. I'm good with that too.
And you want to go out with an RFP and see what we can, okay.
That's what I would like to do.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to
Okay.
go over next door.
Thank you, Burton.
And then we have a couple of resolutions too that we
Do you
got.
need to stick around for anything before I go? I've got till 11 o'clock. I got 10 more minutes if you need something, anything legal.
I've got some stuff that Gary had worked on
Right.
for you guys to look at or possibly approve. One was you'd made a motion, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago about not accepting any CUPs on solar until the moratorium was over or lifted, or whatever you want to do with it. So he prepared a resolution to do that. He also had one that he'd already prepared in case you got to a point where you did want to cancel the moratorium, so I have that one here. And then he sent a policy for guidelines for the use of remote attendance on county boards and committees. And that one's not a resolution, it's just a policy statement, and I didn't know if you guys had had time to look through that and have any comments or what you wanted to do, and Bert and I can forward these things on to you if you want to take a look at them too.
Sure.
Is that where we want to start?
Pardon me?
That where we want to start? Have Burton look over them?
That's fine. That's all.
So you want me to just email them to you,
That
or?
works, sure.
Okay, let's start there.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be at my office next door. If something comes up and you need me for some reason, I think Danny's got my number, Dave's got my number, you can just, I'll try to run back.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Burton.
One thing I do want to talk about is we got an email from an employee about having meetings in here, and I've mentioned this a few times. We have a brand new judicial building over there with a middle courtroom that's an extra courtroom. And I want to see what you guys' thoughts are on utilizing that on Mondays. They had some pretty good valid points in there in the email, and I don't see why we wouldn't utilize it, so.
Are they going to let us utilize it?
Let us.
Let us, I don't know, I'm just,
It's our building.
Okay.
By statute, what do we have to allow one courtroom? I mean, we got to give them a courtroom, right? Right.
You're asking me legal questions that I don't know the answer to.
I feel like us being here is affecting the road and bridge operation we have in there. I feel like they pretty much have to give their Mondays away. And then for the safety of us, I mean, I don't, our garage door opener is not going to save our lives, but the double clicker might.
okay.
You guys ever given it any thought going to a night meeting?
I'm open to whatever. I think the issue with that would be with overtime and stuff, maybe.
That's what I think too.
But unless we maybe do it like once a month or something, I don't know.
It would open up the option for more people to be able to run for commissioner too, I think. You know, that people that work a day job could have the opportunity if we did go to an evening meeting.
Okay. I'm not opposed to moving over there if that's what we need to do, Danny. I just want to make sure that we're not going to be infringing on other people or causing other problems by doing so. I understand it's our building. I mean, are they operating court?
I was emailed a schedule of their court in there, which I'm not sure. I mean, if you guys want, I can reach out to their office
I think that would be good.
and talk to them about it and just see what we can do. Let me see if I can find it. I mean, it's public knowledge. You can get on there and look at the court cases, but
I'm just saying that if we would have to block off that courtroom, correct? That's what I'm,
on Mondays, yeah.
and just making sure that that's gonna work, I guess is what I'm asking.
I have no idea what the setup is over there, but if you're wanting to continue to broadcast meetings, you'd have to make sure we had.
Well, Chris stated that time in here that when we had the COVID camera cases back there, that's where they went, was that middle courtroom.
Okay.
But I think IT ought to be in on that discussion, because right now we've got a computer and a whole bank of stuff over here that we use to get the connection going, and I mean, we'd have to have some type of setup there to do it.
Okay.
If we was to put it to a vote for 5 commissioners, David, what could we, to split the districts?
We would have to.
I know we'd have to, but is that pretty hard to just so where we could look at it to see ahead of time what the districts would look like?
I can get the population figures and give you example, probably not for the next couple of weeks with this election, because I'm.
We've got a little time anyway, don't remember
Yeah.
before, if we did it. But I'd like to see, and it's been brought to my attention to look, to see where the breakout would be. for the
Yeah, I can
districts.
try to work something up, but like I say, it's probably gonna be 2 or 3 weeks before I'd have
Okay.
time to get it done.
I'm fine with looking at that too.
But, and the question was brought up to me that, you could end up with breaking it out to where a school district, which I realize this is county, but a school district would have two commissioners, by doing it with 5. It might be 2 school districts have 2 in each one.
Yep.
And so that was,
Well, and top of my head, I'm gonna guess that if you're going to 5, North Lincoln may end up being a commission district of its own.
and that would be like Linn
Because
Valley.
that's Linn Valley and everything in Lacine north of the highway, and I think you're gonna find enough population there that that's probably going to be a commission district if we were to 5.
That's what I'd like to, that's the reason why that was brought to my attention, and maybe we ought to look at that to make sure where the, what people, that they can see where it'll be.
Okay. Just the only other thing I had, so I dropped in that Evergy contingency plan, the IRPs and update letters. Those came directly from Evergy's website. And we should be getting a new IRP sometime later this year. So the last one was published in June of 2021, and they're supposed to file those every 3 years. So we should have that, but that's out there for you guys to look at if you want to. So.
Is there a statute, a state statute on what our council needs to do, what their job description is, so we can get moving on that? Because we kind of can't do a whole lot without them, right?
There are statutes that talk about the duties of a counselor and a county attorney. I can't know those numbers off to you, top of my head, but I think for the RFP, a lot of that's going to be how much time do you want someone to commit to it, and you guys would need to decide that.
Okay.
Because that's gonna make a big difference on what you have to pay somebody if they're talking about, 5 hours a week or 30 hours a week. And until you decide what you want, it's kind of hard to talk to anyone about it.
Well, let's decide.
Okay.
Are we gonna allow department heads to speak with them and like we did with Gary?
I think we have to, don't we?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking about the statutes. Like, they advise the commission, not the department heads, but if we want to change it, I guess we can. Right? I mean, is that? We want everything to go through us and then we filter onto the attorney or our advisor or what?
I think you're gonna bog down the operations of the county if you do that,
I agree.
because
But I think that's kind of something that has caused us issues, has it not? I mean, with the billing with Gary and all and such.
I'm not saying it all has to go through us, but we should be advised of what was going on. Would you guys agree?
I think there should be a very detailed job description of what we want up front, and then what the extras is going to be.
Okay. How do you want to work on that? Do we need to get the statute? Do we need to look at what Gary's contract is currently and build off of those things?
You know, we have issues right now with like codes court and other legal stuff, suits. Who's taking care of that, David?
I think they postponed what was scheduled for this month until we can get something sorted out.
So
We could base the meeting, I mean, as far as the Monday meeting, would they have to be here? I mean, do you guys feel that they have to? Could they be Zoom in if they, you know, Zoom into our meeting?
I think with them not being here, we're kind of cutting ourselves short, maybe. I don't know.
That would be my concern as well. I think that's something we could look at, though.
I mean, and I'm not saying every meeting, but, you know, there'd be some meetings we might not.
They might not have to show up, but they're gonna be on in Zoom anyway, so they're gonna be billing us.
Or, I mean, we could set it up, you know, as far as
They
needed.
won't have to travel.
Mhm.
Okay. Other ideas?
I don't know how this works. Do we need somebody to get with Gary and get up to date on this stuff? How does this work?
On what?
Like lawsuits, work on airport issues? Like, does he need to let people know where we're at on that? I mean, I don't know how we do this.
He transferred all his files to me, so I have them. So if there's specific things you're looking for, I can research the files and find them. But like for codes court and that kind of stuff, I think Darren's gonna know more about that than anybody else that's here at the moment.
Well, that's one thing we'll have to have for codes court. I mean, that's an automatic. We need someone for that.
Right.
And you really don't know from week to month what that's gonna entail.
I was just sitting here looking at statutes. I'm not finding much when I do a search on county counselor. I think mainly it's duties are explained under county attorney, and then there's a line in there that the Board of Commissioners can employ another attorney to do the duties, so.
Darren, you got something?
I was just gonna say that, we canceled, we had coach court this coming Thursday, and it was canceled. We set it out until the next date, which is in May. I don't know the date, it's a Thursday, it's the third Thursday of the month, I think.
What's the average of coach court do we have is, I mean, just, I know there'd be some months be worse than others, but just, how much?
This Thursday, I would have had 12 cases.
Well,
So it's like these ones right here. This lawsuit. I don't know where we're at on that. What do we do? You see them? I'm sure that's a pretty big matter. I think I know what that is, but
Right, but
Are
it's
we
gonna be
splitting
in his
anything down?
files.
right, that's what I'm saying. Do we need to designate somebody to that, or are we?
We currently have. So the way you've explained it, right, David, is that Burton falls into our county counselor.
I think those duties fall back on him. Sheriff just sent me a link to the statute on counselor too, so let me. 19-247. Okay, so under the commissioners section in the statutes, it shows in 19-247 the duties of a county counselor. And actually it's fairly short. It's when requested by the Board of Commissioners or when necessary, attend meetings of such board, give legal advice or give advice upon all legal questions that arise and assist the board on all legal matters referred to the county counselor, commence, prosecute, or defend as the case requires all civil suits or actions in which the county is interested and represent the county generally in matters of civil law, draw all contracts and other papers required by the Board of Commission and furnish to the board when requested by it, opinions in writing upon legal matters pending before the board, perform the duties provided by KSA 19-716, which is in the county attorney statutes and amendments thereto, perform all the duties in civil matters that have previously been required by law of the county attorney of the county. So that's just kind of a short requirement on them. And I think, if I remember right, when you go to that 716, that talks about approving the claims on the county. I think we have to have either the county attorney or a counselor sign off. Yeah, claims and accounts, duties of a county attorney. When bills and accounts are presented for allowance, examine such bills and accounts, ascertain as far as possible the correctness of such accounts, give an opinion to the board as to the liability of the county. No bill shall be allowed by the Board of County Commissioners until the county attorney has passed upon it. If there's a county counselor of a county, the counselor shall perform the duties imposed on the county attorney in this section. So that's where we're having them sign off on the bills.
Okay.
To review that. So that is a requirement in there also.
All right, well, do we want to try to bring back our changes that we want to see made for next week and make a decision so we can get that RFP out? As far as addressing hours per week, what we're going to do as far as meetings, whether we're going to allow Zoom. Does that sound like a plan going forward?
come up with what else you have and we'll get an RFP next week. And
Try to get going. Okay. What else, guys?
have Burton look at the resolutions and things we had, and then we'll make a decision on them next week, what we're gonna do as far as the
I emailed them to him.
remote
by the time he was
meetings and
leaving
the
here.
resolution on the conditional use permit.
Okay.
Okay.
You have anything else, Danny? Okay,
Maybe not.
I'll move, we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting.